Gatekeeper, open the portals between the gods and mortals. Power freely flows as our magic grows.
Who is the god of time? Who is the one who sees into the future as well as into the past? Who is the one who guards the gates between the world? It's the mighty Janos. Great Janos, it is said that the gods themselves must ask of your permission to pass through your gates. We, the children of the Great Mother, wish to begin this new podcast to help those learn more about Druidry and paganism, and hopefully be entertaining in the process. For you to favor us and grant us permission to pass through your gates. In return, we offer you this wine as it is proper. Hoc mocte sacrificio, be thou increased by this which I give to you. Et est, so be it.
So be it. Hello, I'm Arin.
And I'm Jonathan.
And you're listening to Part the Mist,
a podcast by a couple of Portland ADF Druids.
Jonathan, thank you for that beautiful invocation to start our podcast in. Why did we do that?
Well, with every episode, we will be inviting and invoking pretty much every god that Columbia Protogrove honors, just so that we get to know them as well as continue building our relationships to them.
Awesome. Well, then who is Janos?
Okay, great. So Janos is the god of doorways, choices, beginnings, and endings. He has two faces on his head. One faces forwards and the other faces backwards. So the Romans used to pray to him for advice, especially with new beginnings, new enterprises, new events, that sort of thing. He also was the Roman god of time, because one of his faces would look into the future, and the other would always look into the past. He was considered one of the most important Roman gods. He doesn't have a Greek equivalent, so he was one of the homegrown ones. Before any other gods can be invited into any ritual or event, Janos was always the first to be called in.
What a great way to start us out with. We've kind of jumped into our information, so let's go back to talking about what our podcast is about, why we're doing this. Why we're here is we wanted to create a podcast where we had the opportunity to grow with our audience. We're going to be talking a lot about Druidry, Druidism, our own organization, ADF, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Basically, as we're learning, so are you. Jonathan, can you help us tell us what our format's going to be about?
Okay, so our format's going to be pretty straightforward. We'll have just a quick intro piece where we're just, kind of asking each other what's going on, what's, kind of events have you attended, kind of rituals, have you attended any rituals lately or any events? Then we'll get into our main interest piece, which could be anything from what ADF is about, how does one practice such and such, to local events in the Pacific Northwest area. We feel that here it's kind of hard for somebody starting out to find events. So we're trying to provide a service to do announcements of all the local events in the Pacific Northwest area, from Alaska to British Columbia to Washington to Oregon to Idaho.
Okay, so we do want to thank you for bearing with us as we're going through our first episode together, dealing with some learning how to work through our programs and everything.
Learning how to speak is a very, very, very important thing. Realizing that you have this mic in front of you and you're realizing, oh crap, people are going to actually listen to what we're going to say. So there is a little bit of...
people are actually going to hear my voice?
Yeah, it's like, I sound like, oh boy.
Anyway, so just to let you know, what we're going to be doing for our first episode here is we are actually going to be interviewing each other so you can get an idea of who your hosts are.
That could use a drink.
And yes, we are drinking beer as we go.
Yes, and we're in Portland, so Portland does have very good beer here. Now, we're not drinking the best beer. We're kind of on a beer budget right now, so we're drinking something called Simpler Times beer. Leave that up to your imagination, what kind of that tastes like. Yeah, so
It's okay.
yeah.
First episode, we're going to be talking to each other, letting you know who we are. Second episode, we're going to be talking about what ADF is.
And how do you say ADF?
Arnedracht
Andreachfain.
Andreachfain.
Yeah, it's Irish.
It's Irish Celtic, means our own druidry. Again, we will get more into that in the second episode. Third episode, we're actually going to be telling you a little bit about what our own Protogrove does. Jonathan and I are members of Columbia ADF, Protogrove located here in Portland, Oregon. Jonathan's just got voted head druid. And
I am the senior druid.
Sorry,
senior druid. Yeah, I'm the senior druid. Yeah, head druid. That's questionable. With
right.
that.
I don't know what head druid means. Anyway.
Yes, and Arin here is the scribe, so.
So I'm real good with words.
Yeah. There you go. Well, written words are very, very different than spoken words.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of what we're going to be doing for our first few episodes.
We also planned on having interviewing some other Grove members so that you could have an opportunity to hear other people than just us talk about what our spirituality is, because we're not experts. I've been doing this for a while. I know I've been doing this for a while, but I'm not an expert in ADF. There are a bunch of people out there that know a lot more than us. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to give you a perspective of just some Joe Schmo practicing druidry, essentially.
Right, and not just the Joe Schmo, but we do hope to have some higher echelon interviews on here as well.
We'll have some, as Isaac Bonowitz used to say, big-nosed pagans on here too. We know quite a few that we're going to bring in and probably ask them some curveball questions, but that's okay.
Do we have anything else to talk about?
Let's see. No, I think that's it. I think I'll just go ahead and jump into that. Arin, you're first. So hand me the questions on your tablet. Excellent. Okay, so this is going to be more of an interview, like a job interview, and then with some follow-up questions. All right, so tell us about yourself.
Well, as I mentioned before, my name is Arin. I am actually transgender. I was assigned female at birth. I now have gender fluid. I identify as gender fluid.
What does that mean, Arin?
What that means basically is I have boy days and I have the very rare girl days. Primarily, I identify as male. For the listeners, that pretty much means that I have different pronouns. Despite my beautiful soprano voice, I do use he, him pronouns, or they, their, they, them, their pronouns. That's
okay. Okay, great. So, what is your religious?
So, I come from a Christian fundamentalist background. Should come as no surprise.
I'm shocked.
Right?
I'm absolutely shocked, knowing, yeah.
Because pagans never come from Christian backgrounds.
Never. Well,
no.
Whoa. Wait for a moment here. That's not necessarily true.
I was being sarcastic.
I understand. Okay, go on. Sorry.
I was raised in a non-denominational church. No Christmas, no Halloween, nothing like that, because my parents would teach us about the pagan backgrounds of these holidays. So, for me, however, I was very spiritual growing up. I have always been a very spiritual person. Religion, faith, God has always been something that has defined myself, who I am, what I do. I was a very good little Christian. I did everything that I was supposed to do. I did the promised ring. I did everything. I just didn't, I reached a point in high school where I started to realize that I didn't necessarily agree with all of the politics that went along with my religion. Now, in high school, in college rather, I met a young man who basically introduced me to his version of agnostic paganism. He was very much into the magic side of it, and he sat me down, he taught me. He taught me what magic was with a scientific point of view, and it felt like it was something that clicked home for me. At this point, I was still Christian, I still believed in the Christian God, but the more I started to explore paganism, and more specifically polytheism, the more at home I started to feel. I eventually reached a point where I could come to terms with the fact that it was okay to believe in Yahweh and still believe in other deities. And I started identifying as a pagan. Now, what this meant for me at the time was mostly something that I could put down on my cards, put down on my information. I didn't do a whole lot of practice, personally, until I moved to Long Beach. I started going to school at Cal State Long Beach. And
Wait, you're not a local Portland person?
I'm not.
Oh,
I
God.
am unfortunately from Southern California.
Oh,
Yes.
well, so am I. So we're the invaders from the South. High five.
All right.
All right. Gotta steal the beer and grow some beards.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I met up with this group in Long Beach, the Nature's Path, with California Unitarian Universalist Long Beach. My first ritual was Samhain. And I remember being very overwhelmed. I had studied paganism. I had a vague idea of what the high days were, but I had never been to a public ritual. I had never even done ritual by myself before. So when, we'll call her Jane, came up to me asking me if I wanted to smudge the space for our ritual, I had no idea what was going on. I am an introvert. I'm at my first ritual ever. It was a pretty small ritual, not a whole lot of people, but all the same, I have this almost complete stranger coming up to me asking me if I want to participate, and I'm looking at her with a deer in the headlights look. Tell her I have no idea what that even means. So she just smiles at me, hands me the sage, and pushes me on my way, tells me what to do and pushes me on my way. And from that point on, I was sold. I mean, these were my people. And that may sound a little bit strange coming from an introvert, but the fact that she pushed me into participating, that she made me a part of this ritual, it made it my religion. And that was it. I mean, through it in college, I ended up being one of the founding members of our pagan club on campus, essentially, pagan and religious tolerance club, I think is what we called it. I was vice president. We had our own rituals, and at the same time, I was still continuing to participate with Nature's Path.
At this point, were you still in the church at this point?
I was not, actually. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I parted with Christianity on a very amicable terms about the same time that I started calling myself pagan, back in about 2007.
Okay, because I just want to kind of make it clear that it's not just all flowing together like that.
Right. It did kind of flow together very well for me. I actually, for a short time, almost considered calling myself a Christian pagan, because I still believed in Yahweh. I still believed in the Christian God. I just eventually ended up reaching a point where I realized that this was not the deity that I was meant to continue my religious practice with.
Okay. That sounds really, really good. I mean, I don't know what to say other than that sounds awesome.
It was
Because you
awesome.
actually also, what was nice is you answered a few of my next questions, so I don't have to ask you how did you come to paganism,
Right.
or if you not start out in ADF, how did you come to it? So excellent. You.
Well, I haven't answered that question yet. That Nature's Path was not ADF yet.
No, but if you did not start in ADF, how did you come to it? You're on that path. So please continue.
Okay. All right. So eventually, I ended up moving away from Long Beach, moved up to Portland, Oregon.
You don't want to live here. It's awful and it rains all the time.
It's overcast now. I'm staring out at the gray sky.
Yeah, it's horrible. It rains all the time. Yeah,
Plus,
please don't move here.
Did you know, like, the highest rates for, like, bicycle thefts here in Portland,
It's
Oregon?
huge. I mean, it's awful.
I had my bike stolen last week. So.
Yeah, it's awful. So wherever you're living, you don't want to move here.
But I, however, did move to Portland, Oregon. Moving from the desert to the rainy climate was appealing to me. I don't know why. I do know why. It's beautiful.
No, it isn't. It's an ugly place. Stop it. We don't need any more people here. So yes.
I moved to Portland, Oregon in 2013.
Thank you. Please continue.
I started looking for some pagan groups, obviously, like, right away, because I had found this niche that I had belonged to, and I was looking for something more to continue working with, really. At the time, there wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't any pagan Wiccan groups that were really open to public entry. And the ones that were there, they wanted you to go to a couple events beforehand, and I really just wanted to do the spirituality part of it. I didn't want to do the public interactive, please don't make me be an extrovert thing.
By the way, which later on becomes, I made Arin do the extroverted thing by being the bard leader, having him take ritual parts. See, what I've learned is that with people like Arin, I just kind of give the parts. I'm like, you're gonna do this. You're like, okay.
I'm an extrovert by force.
Yes. Our growth tends to turn introverts into extroverts quite often. Not necessarily by choice, but by just having to be hanging around us.
Well, I'm fine by it. I get to be an extrovert with a bunch of awesome people.
There you go.
Anyway, so at the time, I hadn't been able to find anything. Columbia ADF did not exist yet. I started looking at some online programs. There was about a year between when I graduated college and moved up here. So I'd been out of college for about a year, and I am a very academic person. So I decided to start looking online for groups where I could learn about paganism or learn about specific paths in paganism. At that point, I had heard I'd been listening to podcast with Dov the Bard. I'd been listening to The Wiggleyan Way.
The Wiggleyan Way.
I'd heard about Isaac Bonowitz. I'd heard about Obot. I'd heard about a little bit about AD. Learn to realize and understand that I wanted to know more about druids. So I had gone through it enough that I had decided I'm going to be a member, which I pretty much just started to read the book and then sucking my soul, and I found no time myself. I stopped making time for my spirituality. Sometime around Yule 2014, I ended up realizing that I didn't have what I was looking for. I went online. I found a group that was finally offering public ritual, and it just so happened that they were with ADF, which I had already signed up with. So, in bulk, 2015 was my first ritual with Columbia ADF. And that's my life story.
Wow. Your life story in 10 minutes. Excellent, Arin. Excellent. Well, I think on that note, before you turn around and... Wait, am I missing questions?
Is there...
I think there's more questions. Yes, there is. I was about to cut you short to go to me. Oops.
That sounds like you.
Yeah, well, we won't discuss that. How did you get into podcasting? I'm sorry. I apologize, everybody. I'm terrible at interviewing.
We'll get better as we go.
I promise. So, Arin, how did you get into podcasting?
How did I? Well, it was something that actually you and I had kind of been talking about for a little while, wanting to do a podcast to reach out to the Pacific Northwest. I have been listening to podcasts for many years, as I previously mentioned, and I am a giant fanboy. And pretty much anything that I get addicted to, like podcasts, I want to start doing. So finally, I'm taking the steps, and I'm getting into podcasting now.
I can drink to that. Here, where's your drink?
All right.
There you go. Here, cheers. Yuck. All right. Is there anything else you'd like us to know? Okay, quick question for you. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Neither. I'm a fantasy man.
Oh. Oh, you're killing me. I died a little bit. No, if you had to choose.
Oh, God.
See, that's very important to a Druid podcast. If you like Star Wars or Star Trek, it's very important.
I don't know if I can choose because I love a lot of the original Star Trek, but Star Wars definitely has that fantasy aspect. Plus, like, using the Force is totally magical.
He hasn't seen the other series yet, so I'll work on him on that one.
Right,
so we'll see. All right. And how can you be contacted if people want to reach out to you?
Yes.
Separately from the podcast.
Separately from the podcast.
Yes.
You can email me. My email is tashodwulf@gmail.com. TASHODWULF. That's going to be in the show notes.
Definitely.
You can also follow my Druid pagan magic blog on Tumblr, which is druidflame, druidflame.tumblr.com.
All right, excellent. I think we'll go ahead and stop here and take a quick musical break, and then we'll turn around and I guess we'll interview.
I get to interview you.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, so we'll see you guys in a few minutes.
There's an alligator in the house. A toothy grin appears beneath my chair. A scaly tail goes sliding out of sight. Now it's gone. Was it ever there? Something odd has moved into the house. Reptilian tracks lead underneath the bed. And all the cats are tasty, fat, and scared. But I don't think we've lost any yet. So what's the big deal? Doesn't everyone have an alligator somewhere, somehow? And maybe this one has always been here, but I never noticed until now. There's an alligator in the house, just caught her napping in the living room. She was dozing on the velvet couch, and the cats were sleeping there too. There's an alligator in the house. No one seems to mind except for me. Well, at least she doesn't eat the cats. I suspect she'd rather eat me. There's an alligator in the pit. She is to win them over to her cause. She will do whatever it takes. They think I don't see their little smiles as they plan reptilian overthrow. But I hear them talking in my dreams. They will not be sad to see me go. So what's the big deal? Doesn't everyone have an alligator somewhere, somehow? And maybe this one has always been here, but I never noticed until now. I've begun to worry about my toes. The alligator seems to think they're nice. I've counted all of them 100 times, but I never got the same answer twice. There's an alligator in my bed. She is not a master of disguise, just a pillow waiting for my head. Soft and sweet and hungrily she lies. There's an alligator in the house. Today she joined me for a spot of tea. She helped herself to raspberries and cream, and she didn't leave any for me. Well, I thought that I had seen it all, but this alligator proved me wrong. Like a lady as she sipped her tea, she sang to me this little song. So what's the big deal? Doesn't everyone have an alligator somewhere, somehow? I know that you'd miss me if you found me gone, though you never noticed until now. So what's the big deal? Doesn't everyone have an alligator somewhere, somehow? And maybe this one has always been there, but I never noticed until now.
Hello, I'm Ember, and you're listening to Part the Mist, a Druid podcast created and hosted by the members of Columbia ADF.
Welcome back. So let's go ahead and get back into our content here. Jonathan,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my background's very, very different. It's actually completely opposite of yours, Arin. I grew up with absolutely no religion. Culturally, we were Jewish. Jewish and Druid, so I'm Druish, essentially, you know.
And the first pun of the podcast
Yeah,
goes
I'm a
to...
Druid. Yeah. By the way, there's going to be a lot of puns. They're probably going to be really bad. So you could send your hate mail to, what's your email address?
ptmpod@gmail.com. Address it to Jonathan.
Yeah, address it to me. If you don't agree with what I say, because sometimes I put my foot in my mouth, and it happens. It happens, especially bad puns. So anyway.
All right, so you were Druish.
So no, well, I grew up with no religion. My dad is Jewish, and my mom's a recovering Catholic. She was more agnostic. She's more agnostic, and he's straight up militant atheist. So I grew up with no religion. I was taught that pretty much fundamentalists were a bunch of morons. And, so throughout my teenage years, I was one of those angry teenagers. You know, the moody teenager who hates everything?
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I just hated religion. I thought all those people were stupid. Not realizing that I myself was an idiot. But hey, teenagers.
Teenagers,
yeah.
Right.
So when I was about 18 years old, I was surfing the net, and somehow I stumbled on beliefnet.com, and I was reading an article on something called Wicca. And for some reason, I can't explain why, when I read it, it just clicked. It was, this makes sense. This answers the questions that I was asking myself. Now, granted, I wasn't really sitting down and, trying to figure out things, but it just seemed to click. So, being 18 years old and having a little bit of cash on me, I went to the then Borders, and I was looking for pagan books. Now, then in California, where they put the pagan books was under speculation. So I went and I bought Uncle Bucky's Big Blue Book. I bought Scott Cunningham books. I pretty much bought anything that said pagan on it.
I wonder if that's why I never found any of the pagan books, because I always looked under New Age.
They weren't actually in New Age, no.
Huh.
Yeah. So anyway, I got the books and I started reading them immediately when I got home, and some of it was really clicked with me, some of it not really. I've always been really interested in classical history, especially Rome, if you haven't already guessed. So Roman history and stuff has always interested me. So I wanted to see, hey, the Roman gods, I want to learn more about them. So maybe through this modern Wicca and paganism, I can learn more. But the more I was reading, I realized that some of these things, like the high days, like the Sabbats, I wasn't really interested in the Sabbats. I just wanted to do the magical practices and honor the deities at home. So I was practicing for a few years. I moved out. So I had my own little altar set up, and there would be pictures of it too. I still have the pictures of my first altar. It's very different now, but so I'm practicing and everything. But I felt that something was missing. I felt that I wanted to practice with other people. I'm a very much an extrovert, so I needed people, and I felt this whole solitary thing wasn't working out for me. So I didn't know where to turn. Being in Los Angeles, being the huge wasteland that it is, I didn't know where to look. So I looked back online to WHUUF, which is a great source looking for events, local events and groups and such. Now, mind you, I haven't been to a high day before. I have never read very much about the high days. But, I was looking for a celebration. So I found something called Beltane. Yeah, see, I heard it was a fertility ritual, and it said a traditional Beltane, so I had no idea what that was. But hey, it says 21 and older. Not 21, I'm sorry. It was 18 and older. Adults only, no kids. Great, that means there won't be annoying kids running around. Excellent. I think I'm about 19 at this point. I'm like, yes, I could go to a ritual, see what a ritual's about, be with community. This would be excellent. So this Beltane was held at I think Point Magoo Beach, somewhere in Ventura County. I go there, and it was a camping festival too. So I had no idea what the camping was about. So I said, okay, I'll bring my tent and some, canned SpaghettiOs, because that's how you truly camp, is you bring a canned goods. Oh yeah, hey, So we go ahead and we set up everything, and we go do the ritual. I thought the ritual was going to be like an hour. It was going to be heavily scripted, just something that for some reason I had in my head that this was going to be. The ritual was nice. It was a nice ritual. It was short. We danced on the maypole. We called quarters. We did the standard, Wicca eclectic kind of ritual, which was also static, by the way. There wasn't really any script. And I was like, great. And everyone's like, all right, guys, time to get back to camp. And I was like, already? What are we going to do back in camp? And then I got that look. Like, you don't know what the hell we're going to do back? Like, what are we going to do? So we go back, and yes, it was quite a bit about fertility. I was not expecting that. You know, I was, at that point, mind you, I was very prude. This whole sexuality thing with paganism my brain did not comprehend that very well. So I was like, what the hell is going on? What is this? No. And of course, now I'm kicking myself, like, damn it, Jonathan, damn it. What's wrong with you? So I left. I didn't spend the night. I was kind of upset because that's not exactly what I was preparing myself for, which, again, completely my fault. I mean, you should really do some research before going to, like, a group you don't know, to a festival you don't know. But I was young, so you know, so I went back to being more of a solitary, studying up more about Roman polytheism. Polytheism at this point, I had to learn the difference between polytheism and more of the dualism, you know. Mm-hmm. And we'll touch bases on that in later episodes. So I delved deeper into my practice, but I still was yearning for community. So I did some more searching on WitchFox, and I came upon this Italian witchcraft group. I'm like, Italian witchcraft? They honor Roman deities? This is fantastic. Okay, great. Oh, God. All right. So I went to one of their, they were a coven, so I went to one of their outer court meetings, and I met everybody, and we all seemed to click. Because at this point, I was also looking for a mentor, because I was hitting that wall where I didn't know where to go. So I befriended the teacher, and we all did, you know, rituals and stuff together, which I enjoyed the rituals a lot. But unfortunately, it started to cross that line with teacher-mentor, where
mentor-mentee, you mean?
Yeah, and it started to get, you know, it started to become, I think, inappropriate, where he was wanting me to be a little bit more than just friends, and that made me very uncomfortable. Until one day he asked me when I was going to spend the night, and at that point I was like, no. So I ended up leaving, and I ended up leaving the group, and totally disheartened with this whole pagan thing, this whole idea that everybody just wants to sleep with everybody, and it was just, it was really just, it was hard because I really wanted to learn more, and I was hitting these roadblocks. So a couple more years go by, and I think I'm 25 at this point. And at this local Unitarian Universalist church, they were doing this workshop on Greek gods. So I was like, oh, okay, well, great, you know. No, they're not the same. Greek and Roman gods are different, so we'll hit that. So, yeah, so I'm like, hey, you know, Greek gods, great. I'll go and check it out. So I go there, and there's about 20 people there, and there's this older gentleman, and he's, you know, we're talking a little bit, and he goes, hi, my name is Mike. I'm a Druid, and I'm part of a grove called Raven's Cry Grove. I'm like, oh, great, Druidry. That's a Celtic thing. That's really not my thing. Oh, no. We're not just Celtic. We're Indo-European. So we honor all these different other hearth cultures, pantheons, and do all these different celebrations. You should come to our next high day. I'm like, is that kind of like a Sabbath? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, ooh, yeah. I hope it's not. Yeah. And he goes, because this time it was spring equinox. So I was like, another fertility one, huh? He goes, oh, no. Our next ritual is Hilaria. It's the Roman spring equinox with Magna Mater. And I was like, oh, I have to go to this because this is Roman and this is going to be awesome. And he goes, and then I started asking him some questions like, okay, this is a public ritual, right? This isn't closed as public. So there's not going to be any of the, you know, he goes, oh, no, none of that. So I ended up going to this ritual, and it was everything I wanted. It had structure, it had the devotional aspect, it had the community aspect, it had one hell of a potluck. It was quite fantastic. So right afterwards, I went ahead and I joined ADF, I joined Raven's Cry Grove, and I joined their initiate program to learn more about Druidry and to get initiated into the Grove. Not all groves do that, just Raven's Cry at the time did. And I was a member for quite a few years until I had escaped from LA and moved up here to Portland, part of the Advanced Invasion Force. So I came up here, and there was nothing. There was really Druidry up here. Really, there's one grove, I think, but that wasn't the Druidry I was necessarily looking for. I was looking for like ADF. Because ADF is pretty much everywhere. Every major city has at least one ADF grove, but Portland didn't. And that made me kind of sad, because again, I didn't want to go back to being 18 in my early 20s again looking.
Right.
So I said, well, if it's not here, I guess I'm going to have to build it. So I went ahead and I formed Columbia Protogrove. Now that's a story all on itself, and that could take a whole podcast.
I think we can talk about that.
Yeah,
3.
yeah. I think in episode 3 we'll talk about that. But and there's a lot of experience, a lot of growing pain with the Grove. But now we're soon to be Grove once our bylaws get finished.
By next episode, I hope.
I do hope. You know, I should make another offering to Janos for that one. Definitely. Yeah. So you know, I'm gonna go do that here. Let me pour some more. Janos, please have the Grove become a Grove by then. Accept our offering, exactly. Again, you know, we're a devotional practice, so we make lots of offerings to different deities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay. What did I not cover with those questions?
You covered a lot. Do you follow any other paths besides ADF?
Yes, actually. So, what's nice about ADF, and I'm sorry, I'm going to pitch the whole ADF thing, is that in ADF you don't just have to be an ADF person. You don't just have to be a Druid. Mm-hmm. ADF really encourages you to seek out other paths as well to help complement Druid. I am a Roman Reconstructionist. Mm-hmm. So I'm a Roman Druid, which is just hilarious in its own self. But while we view, at least how I view Druids, I view Druidry as those seeking knowledge, as those who go out and try to be part of the community, to teach more than just based on a hearth culture pantheon.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I included. I think we forgot that question when I was being interviewed. I don't actually follow any other paths currently.
Arin is a true Druid, and I'm just a poser. I'm just kind of sneak in, you know, just like the Roman guy. I just gotta come in and be like, you know what? I really like that. Oh, look, it's mine now. Oh, you have a grove. That's nice.
I totally have my options open and prepared for anything else that comes along my purview. At the moment, I'm just ADF though. But yeah, I mean that's one of the things that really attracted me to ADF is the fact that it's not, you don't have to follow just ADF. You don't have to be just a Druid.
So and I've been asked questions like how do you put the Roman viewpoints with the Druid viewpoints? Well, I'm going to say this, and this might be a little controversial, so send your hate mail to me.
PTMpod@gmail.com.
Yes, please do.
Attention, Jonathan.
Yes. Or why I hate Jonathan. We don't know a whole lot about the Druids. We know from some guy who knew some guy who knew some guy. We know some 7th century stuff from Ireland. But Central Europe Druids, we really don't know anything. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff we speculate, but we know almost everything about the Romans. Right. And because they come from the same language group, since they're Indo-European, the Celts and the Romans share a lot of similarities, quite a bit, more than some people care to admit, but they do share a lot of the same motifs and same viewing of how to make sacrifice and stuff like that. And that's why a lot of these cultures were easily absorbed into the empire as well. So how I put them together as well, different names for different things. Instead of calling it the World Tree, I call it the Axis Mundi, but it's the same thing. That doesn't change. But we'll get more into that later.
Right. to move away from the religious aspect then for a little bit, how did you get into podcasting?
Well, you asked me that, hey, I want to do this podcast. And I'm
Basically, we got into podcasting because both of us wanted to.
No, whoa, wait a minute here.
Both of us were talking to each other about it.
So two people were having a conversation. And after that conversation, Arin was like, I want to do a podcast. And I'm like, I should probably support this podcast.
That's not how I remember it
Okay. At gunpoint, you kept me saying, like, you need to do this podcast.
At my first business meeting, Jonathan goes, hey, I kind of think it'd be cool if there was a pod for the Pacific Northwest.
I don't remember any of that. How convenient.
To each their own, I guess.
Yeah, well.
Romans, man. Is there anything else you want us to know about you?
I am a huge sci-fi fan. That's why I brought up I'm a huge Star Trek fan, so if you hate that, well, I'm sorry for you. No, I kid. Let's see, other than the Star Trek stuff, I have a generic job. I work in the tech industry like everybody else pretty much up here. I live with a beautiful girlfriend here, and we're recording in our studio, which is a couch in our living room. So this is our studio. I have a cat named Vesta. I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan. Woo!
Yeah.
I have Janos tattooed on my forearm, which I'll post a picture of that. What else do I do, Arin? You totally know everything about me. What else do I do?
Yeah, totally.
I think that's. I mean, I spend most of my
what's
time.
Your sign?
Oh, what's my sign? Well, those who care can actually give to, well, we can't say the S word, to shoots. I am a Sagittarius, double Leo. So let that sink in for a bit. I actually spend most of my time with Grove stuff since I'm so busy. And our Grove does so much stuff that it keeps me pretty much spending 4 or 5 hours a week minimum on Grove. But yeah, that's really all about
Jonathan really helps us get things done in the Grove. Like, he's been a huge motivating factor for everything, I think, in the Grove. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
How can you be contacted?
How can I be contacted? Well, you can contact me personally. John, Jon, D as in David, Levy 1984 @gmail.com. Yes, it's funny, but I was one of the few first people to actually start getting a Gmail account, and I'm totally not creative.
You know what? Any place I open up an account, because of the uniqueness of my last name, I can always get my name. Any questions we missed?
No, I think that's on the interview.
I'm gonna throw one more thing out there, or a couple more things out there, because I don't remember what I said when you asked if there's anything else that we wanted, or I wanted people to know. I am polyamorous. I do live with I live with my partner Sam of 4 years, and my partner Ain of 1 year. And I'm a big fantasy buff, so that's probably why Jonathan and I butt heads all the time. And my sign is Leo. I don't know what my other stuff is, but my sign is Leo.
We will find out in a bit. That's okay.
Ain will tell you. Anyway, if that's it, let's go ahead and get on to our announcements.
All right, so for those living in the Pacific Northwest region, so yes, let's go through the events. And if you have an event that you wish for us to actually announce on this podcast, please send them to
ptmpod@gmail.com.
And I promise I will remember that email account. So, all right, so coming up, March 4th through 6th is the Northwest Tarot Symposium, and you can get more information for that at NW Tarot Symposium. That is TAROTSYMPOSIUM.com. March 13th at 2 p.m. is Columbia Protogrove's Druid Drinks, which is our meet and greet. So if you'd like to come and meet us, we will be located at Lucky Labrador on Hawthorn in Portland, and that is at 2 p.m.
March 19th at 10 a.m. There's the Paganfaire 2016, The Star Goddess Creates, located at Washington County Fairground at the Fair Complex.
And that's brought to you by Sister Spirit.
And March 20th at 3:30, Columbia Protogrove, Return of Corey, Ritual to Persephone. Location is at West Hills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and the address is 8470 Southwest Olson Road, Portland, Oregon. And that's it for March and April.
So for April 17th at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. is Oh Wow's Psychic and Healing Fair. Location is East Portland's Eagle Lodge, 3256. I think a simple Google search could get you more information on that. On April 24th at 3:30 is Columbia Protogrove's Irish Beltane celebration. Location is at West Hills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, 8470 Southwest Olson Road, Portland.
And we will have more information about those events located in the show notes.
Yes. I think we are reaching our end of the show for our first episode.
Yes, we are.
But before we go, we have some other words. We make sure we need to thank Janos for joining us here as well today. Do you want to do that now, or did you want to anything else you have to say before we close the show up?
Let's.
Where's our website?
Yes.
Hey.
So to find our website for the podcast, that is going to be at ptmpod.libsyn.com. And again, you can email us if you'd like at ptmpod@gmail.com.
To find a little bit more information about our group, our growth, you can visit us at columbiaadf.org. And
if you'd like to find out a little bit more information about ADF before our next episode, you can find that at adf.it's org, isn't it?
It is org. It is an organization. It's a nonprofit.
ADF.org.
Yes. So let us go ahead and thank Janos. Janos, for allowing us to travel between the worlds. So the beginning of this podcast, together, Arin and I say, we thank you. So that wraps up the first episode. Hey, high five. Very nice. All right, so the next episode should air April 1st or the first week of April, depends on how things going. So get us your events, and if you have any suggestions, please email, hate mail, comments,
hate mail,
anything,
fan mail,
anything like that. Please email us at
ptmpod@gmail.com.
Great. Well, we will see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Have a great month.
Great month, exactly. Not weekend, month.
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
Take no scorn to wear the horn. It was the crest when you were born. Your father's father wore it, and your father wore it too. Hallantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o to welcome in the summertime. Welcome in the May-o, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. Robin Hood and Little John have both gone to the fair, and we shall to the merry greenwood to hunt the bark and hare. Oh, Hallantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o to welcome in the summertime. Welcome in the May-o, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. What happened to the Spaniard? The made so brave the boast, oh, that they shall eat the feathered goose. We shall eat the roast, oh, Hallantoe, jolly rumble-o, we were up long before the day-o to welcome in the summertime. Welcome in the May-o, the summer is a-coming in, and winter's gone away. run below. We were up long before the day, oh, to welcome in the summertime, welcome in the May, oh, for summer is a coming in and winter's gone away.